Hello everyone joining in, welcome. Today's discourse is discussing the KYBALION by the three initiates. So if consciousness and its functionality, the system of manifestation, is of interest to you, how things come about, how life is lived, then you're going to want to tune in today. And if you happen to be pressed for time, which is fine, you'll find this recording on my YouTube page, and the link is in my bio. Not sure when it will be posted, probably sometime today. See how easy that is? You can come, you can go, you can stay, do whatever you think is best for you. Live free. Like the New Hampshireans. Live free or die, says New Hampshire, at least on their license plate. All right, so welcome everyone. Lisa says it froze. Looks like we got a green light now. What's up, Lisa? Fashionista? Pro Master, Grand Rising. Hello. Welcome, everyone. Cunnilingua's here. I see everybody. All the usual suspects. Lisa Fashionista's here. Great to see you. Nice to see everyone here. You know, we had such a brilliant discussion yesterday about the KYBALION by the three initiates that I thought I would do a little bit of homework. So I came here prepared today. That's right, I'm prepared. I brought with me my cheat sheet. I brought the 7 principles or the precepts of the KYBALION, and we're going to do a large discourse on this today, which is awesome because it tells you everything about the meaning of life. By the end of this discourse, you're going to have a complete understanding of your purpose. I know that's a lofty statement, but it's quite likely, actually. The way that I'm about to unveil it for you should be really enjoyable. So now's a good time to get yourself comfy. Take in the blue skies. Grab yourself a nice glass of wine or a tall glass of Hefeweizen. And if you don't drink, get yourself a nice glass of kava or some tulsi tea and get ready. Man in Black says shalom. Hello, Man in Black. Man in Black, we are going to talk about one of the 7 precepts right now regarding your name. Yesterday we talked about the Man in Black device that waves before your head and erases your memory. I talked about this in the form of receiving light in the form of an orb that we talked about yesterday. We were talking about orbs. So this is another sort of reminder from the KYBALION that there are patterns, that life is rhythmic and has cycles. It's one of the 7, and this is one of those examples. And so you could say that synchronicity is the rhythm of life, showing itself in a form that we recognize. Okay? Here we go. So thanks for the heart, me, Man in Black, and shalom. Shalom. Thank you for following. What do we got here? Thanks for the heart, me. Pelios asks, did you allow me to go outside today for this? Oh, you. You in the woods today, Pelios? Hello there, Man in Black. All right, folks, let's get into the KYBALION. First of all, you can find the audiobook of this book that I'm going to be summarizing in my own way. Effectively, it will be the Cliff Notes abridged version of the Principles of Life. This book is by the 3 initiates, otherwise known as Hermes Trismegistus, or the Thrice King. Hermes is believed to have unlocked the secret to immortality, and that it's not something that you unlock outside of yourself, but once you unlock the truth that is within you as a divine being, then you start to come into that being and reside there and find immortality as uncorrupted. Welcome to the sun. This is your blueprint of life, at the same time, your umbilical cord. Without this, there is no food on this planet. There are no plants that feed off of the light, no animals that eat those plants, and no humans that eat those animals and or plants. At the end of the day, you are eating light. It is your umbilical cord that feeds you all nutrients on Earth. As an earthling, this is your domain. Okay? So as we get into the idea that this is an umbilical cord, what does that mean? It means on its side, there's either the placenta or the baby. Whose choice is that? Because of the law of correspondences, as above, so below, one of the precepts of the KYBALION is correspondence, which states, as a man thinketh, coming into the mentalism, another one, as a man thinketh, so shall he or she become. Yes, I say he or she because one of the other rules or precepts of the KYBALION is that there must be gender. This idea that there is a masculine and feminine counterpart that work in union, and without one, you cannot have the other. It is the yin-yang that gives you creation, not one claiming it all and pretending. That doesn't work unless you are the all. Unless you are the all, then you're not pretending. You are everything. But you can't be one side of a singular coin and pretend you're everything. That's foolish, and it doesn't work. So, therefore, one of the rules of the KYBALION is this idea of gender. And I'm not talking about man and woman so much as I'm talking about active and passive, giving and receiving, seed and earth, wishing and receiving, or wishing and manifestation. You can't have the manifestation without the wish, and you can't have the wish without the manifestation. The manifestation comes forth and it gives you desire. Without seeing that which you desire, there is no wish. You can't have one without the other. They complement each other, even though we may see ourselves at odds in this crazy day. That's fine. Just here to show you that the rules are not being applied appropriately, so people are suffering. That's the result. It always is. If you do not follow the rules of the game, you're simply going off course. And the more you go off course, the more you're going to find yourself falling into peril. Simple. In concept. Which side are you on? The side of the placenta or the side of the baby? How about we just be everything and recognize the system and how it works? That way we can be safe no matter where we are. We could visit both. That sounds pretty good to me. But how do we get there? We have to embrace the eternal I, the infinite imagination. And by using the infinite imagination, we encompass both the active and the passive principles, the giving and receiving, the as above, so below, the rhythm, the color of everything and its absence, the light and the darkness. We embrace it all. So it's better to do that if you're looking to be free, one, and also in charge of the identity that has been imposed upon you. Yes, your identity was imposed upon you. We are all victims in a way. By coming into this world, yes, we did make the decision to be given aliveness. We did compete against others to be selected, and we made it here. Against millions of others, we won. So as to be subjected to a world of duality, the world is dual. But at the same time, we want wholeness, we want completeness, we want unity. It's this desire to connect, to feel complete, that we are seeking in truth. And we seek it in all things. We want completeness with our meal. That is, I want to taste it, I want to touch it, I want to feel it, I want to smell it. I want to embrace it and see it assimilate itself into my body into the same form of cells that everything else is assimilated into. I want unity with that food. But at first, there's the desire that it's at a distance. This goes for all things that would appear to be your salvation. Whether it's love, you might see it as at a distance from you, but you want unity with it. So you have to have polarity for the desire, and then you have to have unity to have truth. This is the KYBALION, chapter number 1. Mike Prieto, thank you for saying Divine Rising. Divine Mother says, greetings, love and light to all. Refractius Maximus says, Canalingua. Uzman, thank you for the co-host invite. Thank you, but no thank you. Shiner today. Sis1, thank you for following. And for the team bracelet, coming in from Men in Black. We're caught up. Vani says, I'm listening to the book right now. The KYBALION is what is being referred to in this statement by Vani. And this book is available to you through the Master Key Society on YouTube. It's free. And I'm going to read to you my little cheat sheet here, the 7 precepts or principles of the KYBALION. This isn't a scripture. It's more of a playbook or a rule book on how manifestation occurs and why. Because there are laws that cannot be challenged or broken that encompass the truth, which is consciousness. They apply to everything, every human. There's not a single exception. Because of this, we can use it as a rule book to be able to manage our lives in a way that is more proficient and wish-fulfilled than perhaps what you're experiencing now, which, if it has to do with suffering, by far what you're about to get shall help you. Vani says, that's exactly where I'm listening to it. Master Key, this is wild. This is a synchronistic event, and it falls in love. It falls in line, not in love. In love too, sure. In line and love, the same thing. Falls in line with number 5. Rhythm. Everything flows out and in. Cycles, patterns, rhythms. You have morning and you have evening. You have the in-breath and you have the out-breath. You have the verse, chorus, bridge, and outro. Thank you, Vani, for the heart me. So everything has cycles and rhythms. This is why we come here every day. This is why we're live, because it's part of the cycle and rhythm. And the more cycling and rhythmic movements that we have, the greater the impression and the more it becomes a pattern. So we want patterning. Why? Because we are creatures of feeling. That means we are creatures of habit. And we seek out the development of habits because we want the feeling. The feeling of comfort, the feeling of familiarity, the feeling of movement, the feeling of progress, the feeling of success, the feeling of excitement, the feeling of pain. Yes, these are also included in the smorgasbord of our menu of life that we choose from. We do like to experience all variety when it comes to feeling as humans. So we seek out our specific menu items in various ways. But it is cyclical, and it all falls in line with the principles of the KYBALION. And as I explain this to you, it may come in parcels, or it might be parsed out and quite random at times, but it always comes full circle. Why? Because the universe works in patterns. You may see something that looks totally disjointed. It might be a crazy film like Magnolia, but if you watch Magnolia to the very end, you understand that everything is linked. Everything is connected. Everything is vibration. That's the third law. Everything is vibration. Nothing rests. Everything is moving. You can't have something that is absolutely still. That is because the universe itself and its life principle, God, if you want to refer to it, the infinite intelligence, is in a form of inertia that has no interference with it. It expands. It expands, it gives life. It is a life principle. And because the life principle is in a form of mentality, it's an idea, more than a thing, it has its own infinite state. So, the nation of images in your mind, the imagination, this is an infinite state of being. It is consciousness and truth. It is your greatest power, and it is you as the essence of who you are. Nothing can exist without it. Therefore, you are an idea in the mind of God. That is who you are. You are made in his image and likeness. This makes you more God than human. However, we do have human experience in a physical body. This is because we desire it. The goal of this game, if there ever was an objective, is know thyself. And you know yourself by coming into being in truth. In the beginning, we're not given that special ability. What's the ability that we're given when we come into this life for the majority of us? Even if you were born, let's say, by yourself in the woods, you'd come into this world somehow surviving. I don't know how. Perhaps the red-tailed hawks are dropping, pieces of squirrel, and you pick it up and eat it, and you survive enough to start to hunt on your own. But you start developing a system of rules, habits, in order for your survival to occur. So we come in with this innate feeling that we have to survive at all costs, and we have instincts that guide us in that way. For a newborn babe, it's sensing the pheromones and the release of oxytocin from the mother's breast. Therefore, even if you can't see, you know how to find your way to the teat so that you can receive those vital little droplets of colostrum that give you all that you need to jumpstart your body in the right way. This is what we do naturally. So we have this desire to survive in this dualistic world. What that leads to is a development of a bunch of systems or judgment systems of things in order to be safe from obliteration. Thus, we develop a fear of death. We have this innate fear of dying, and it comes from our definition of things. But is this truly who we are? Is this everything that we're meant to be? Well, for the majority of people, many could care less. However, the large majority that could care less also have a number of situations where if they were to be honest and they were asked, in truth, would you like to have this replaced? Or would you like to have this changed? Would this bring you more relief? The answer in honesty would be yes. And there could be a number of things because that indicates desire. And we're not here unless we desire things. The moment that we stop desiring things, we no longer play the game of life. It's not a game that's worth playing. No game is worth playing unless there's an objective and we get to play a character. We're not going to play a game otherwise. So we have a character. That character is built with an innate fear of death. And we have desires to avoid that death from occurring to us, upon us. Those life situations that are perilous, that we survive, build up into the form of judgments and then habits, which is, I know if I come to the woods every day, then I'm going to avoid certain death. And thus we build this into a rhythm of life. Because it's comfortable, yes, but also because we're alive because of it. At least that's what we believe. We believe that we are staying alive because of the routines that we have. They somehow work enough for us to remain safe from obliteration and pain. But we know that's not the truth. The moment that we start seeking out any sort of salvation outside of our bodies, it might be nice, it might be exciting, there might be a honeymoon phase, but then it fades. It fades like anything else, just like the sun is going to pass over my head at some point. It's going to set on the other side of the horizon. The night's going to come, and I'll be presented with a number of new factors that I have to somehow deal with. The sun does not stay there consistently. Though it does come up consistently, it's constantly moving. Once again, every star in the sky, every human being in every cell and every atom is subject to this rule. Because the law of correspondences say it, as above, so below. Just as the sun must move, every atom in your body must also be moving. And in order for it to be moving, there must be constraints. Yes, that gives you polarity. At the same time, in order for there to be movement, you must have polarity, constraints, and it must be vibrating, right? For something to move, it must be vibrating. Otherwise, it's still. Vibration, another rule that cannot be avoided. See how we're getting into this? We're getting into this. Denise G., thank you for following. Majibi offers a life situation and says, Jesus is God. Well, I would say Jesus is a part of God because Jesus means salvation, right? I mean, you may agree or disagree. You may say Jesus is Jesus of Nazareth. That would be a man. That would be a human being. You could say Jesus of Nazareth, the man is made in the image and likeness of God. Yes, that also makes him man because all of us are made in the image and likeness of God. So far, we're talking about a man. And if you're saying that Jesus is God, I would say that's incomplete. I would say Jesus is the effect of God. Jesus is the effect of God's grace. God's grace is understanding that you become what you think about. That's Christ consciousness. So it's Christ first and then Jesus, wouldn't you say? Many would say, no, it's Jesus Christ. Salvation, then illumination. I would say it's the opposite. I'd say it's illumination first. You have to seek the kingdom of heaven within you after a lifetime of errors, looking outside of self, erroneously claiming that God is something outside of us like a man or a symbol or some form of language that is our salvation. That would be the temptation delivered by the serpent at the tree of knowledge that, of course, we partake in, that is our parents placing upon us at the moment of birth at some point our identity and us believing that it's the only thing we have and we must now be subject to this world that we can't control as that only thing we have. If that's the case, then the question becomes, why in the world would Jesus of Nazareth gladly give it up for the forgiveness of this error? It's a logical question. Why would Jesus of Nazareth sacrifice his body willingly and knowingly, having seen it already, for the forgiveness of the error in thinking that you are restricted by this body? Let's see the answers. Perhaps you could drop me some scripture. Kylie MM says, thank you. You're my morning boost for today. Thank you very much, Kylie. You too. User 5410414262008 followed. Thank you. Katie Brown, you too. That Girl's Healing. Thank you for following. Divine Mother does not fear death. This is Divine Mother speaking in truth. First of all, death is an illusion. I know that sounds wild. I say that to the ego, everyone's going to go running. For the most part, if you've just arrived for the first time and you hear me say there is no death and that Divine Mother is immortal as pure spirit, that's likely very threatening for every single system that you've built in your life because those systems were thrown upon us, weren't they? Did you give yourself your name? I mean, you could say, yes, esoterically I did. This is all predetermined and divine in that way. But let's just be honest, for life experience sake, did anyone but you agree that your name is your identity? I mean, you have to agree that it's your identity for it to work. So mommy and daddy or guardian or whomever says to me, Billy, 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 Billy. Eventually I'm starting to realize that Billy equals food, Billy equals salvation, sleep, Billy equals protection, Billy equals someone cares for me. Billy equals I get everything that I want. I am Billy. Yes, I am the salvation. And then suddenly, everyone that's saying Billy, Billy, Billy says, no, 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 Billy. No more Billy. No more Billy. You have to be Big Billy now. You have to be William Billy. You have to go out and get your own job so that you can be Billy. You have to go out and find your own love so that you can be Billy. And then Billy feels betrayal, or betrayed. That's what Billy feels. And so suddenly, this is the first big deception, the deception that comes in from this external world. And after enough of these deceptions, what ends up happening is we start to question it. We start to question, is this really everything? Because that thing that I'm seeing, that 444 that I keep seeing every day, just doesn't seem like it's a haphazard thing, like it's just coincidence. I'm seeing it every day now, and I'm wondering if it's trying to tell me something. I mean, I put meaning into the other symbols, like Billy, Billy, Billy. Why can't I put meaning into this thing that keeps showing itself to me in divine ways? Seems to be paired with things that bring me relief. Every time I'm grateful, it shows up again. Kylie MM, thank you for following. So, Divine Mother is not afraid of death. And the reason why Divine Mother is not afraid of death is because Divine Mother is not Divine Mother. Divine Mother is the custodian and the sole proprietor of the identity that was forced upon her aliveness in being. Her body had a name forced upon it. Whatever it is, birth certificate or not, it's an identity that shall come and go. It shall have a birth, a middle life, and a death. But the truth of Divine Mother as aliveness does not die. That is consciousness. That is the truth of every human being. It was before we were assigned a name and bought into the game that we came here to play. We are consciousness. Therefore, you do not die, nor do I, in truth. William's going to die, poor guy. Poor guy, I know. You can feel bad for him, but that's why he goes to the woods every day and records as much as he can, being grateful for the aliveness that he's been given, because he's no longer in charge of this identity. He no longer is the CEO of the aliveness that is William. That is gone. He's now mailroom lackey / personal trainer / does all the hard work / if he ever complains, he's immediately disciplined. Billy. That's who he is now, and that's okay, because the person who is being managed by a higher faculty. Now, a lot of you could say that's disassociation, that's some break, that's perhaps schizophrenia, it could be a number of these things. And yes, for you, they shall be all of those things. As you are defining and labeling the world around you, please come to the conclusion that you're doing this out of fear. That if you don't understand the things that are being said to you right now by this creature before you, then it somehow is a threat to your existence and your identity. That comes first before all the label and judgment. Besides, I am aware that William is an aliveness. I could very easily play the role and I could say, yeah, everybody, sorry. I know I pretended that I was God for a while. I don't really believe in that anymore. I know I'm not using my words in accordance to the way I used to. There's no way I would ever even consider returning to that timeline. I'm sorry. Just as you would say to somebody playing a role-playing game, they've reached level 11 and they're saying, okay, do you want to go back to level 1? Let's have you go back to level 1. It's like, I don't get anything with it. I don't get to bring all of my knowledge with me. I have to pretend that I'm that low level. I don't want to do that. I don't want to go back. I'm not going to go back. I refuse. Besides, even if I went back, I can't undo all the experience that I've already had. All these convictions, all these realizations, I can't just erase it. It's indelibly recorded into my genetics, into my DNA. It stays with. So in that way, we are constantly moving in this linear fashion while we're here in this duality. And so there's no going back. So once you understand that you're more than your identity, this is a major break. It's a major shift. If you come into its understanding, you will feel confused at times. You will wonder why things are still happening that are stressful and pain-inducing. You will forsake that which you now have an inkling is something greater than you as an identity. You will start to forsake it and say, why are you doing this to me? And then eventually, after enough coaxing, whatever momentum had built up into pain remembrances into your body will start to have the ability to unwind enough to where you'll start to feel bliss that is better than any drug, better than any substance, better than any fleeting moment of pleasure, because it's consistent and it's made by you. That's what we want. We want food that is consistently good and made by us. We know where the source is coming from. We know how it comes. We know when it's delivered, what it feels like, and we can trust it because we made it for ourselves. That is different than I'm going to eat everything that's being sent to me outside of me because I trust it blindly, and I find myself somehow slipping into a place where I don't feel nearly as good as I used to, but at least for now I can escape that feeling by masking it. You can have that too. That's called a placenta. It's not a baby, that's a placenta. Okay? All right. Canalingua, Thanks for saying expansion. Indeed, we have that. That's the truth. Gabriella says, you just came on my feed and today I needed to hear everything that you are explaining. Thank you. Thank you, Gabriella, for offering your heart in that way. Overhoff says presence. We are all in it right now. Tori asks, can you talk about disassociation? Absolutely. Tori will definitely talk about this. Pelios asks, so suffering is required? Yes. How can I say it? Suffering is also a judgment. To say that something is painful to one person might be enjoyable to another. But the bottom line is we define things in order for us to understand what it is we want. So that's why we label things, because we're beings of feeling and we want things. We can't know what something is that we want without there being the contrast. So that is suffering from let's say, surrender. Surrender to the good, bliss, is the opposite of suffering. Chills are the answer. People are getting tingles. Oh, Kylie says, you're giving me chills. You're answering so many questions for me. Thank you. Thank you, Kylie. I'm glad we're aligned, and I'm glad that everything is resonating with people. Namaste, Robert. Pilos is getting it. That Girl's Healing asks, do you believe in manifestation? Let's get to the first one here from Tori. I think I answered that, Pelios, but we can always come back to this. Let's get into this here. Tori Mosiniak asks, can you talk about disassociation? Right. So disassociation in the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, or the DSM, by psychologists and psychiatrists would say this is someone who's not taking responsibility for their problems, right? You probably hear that a lot. You got to take responsibility for your problems. You need to have a plan with your life. You need to be moving forward. You need to find the answers. You've been doing this for way too long. This is a bad habit, yada, yada, yada. The reason why you're feeling all this pain is because, and if you don't do this, then you won't be able to get there. So you probably hear that. And so disassociation for a psychiatrist is looking at the person and seeing that they're fine receiving all these judgments and they're not responding. That to a psychiatrist is probably one of the scariest things they'll ever see and experience, is trying to assess someone, getting them to be triggered by words that are being said that are judgmental, which should normally be felt as a threat to their person, suddenly just standing there or sitting there calmly receiving this without any judgment in return. That is considered by psychologists and psychiatrists disassociation, and it's seen as a negative thing, okay? The reason why it's seen as negative is because psychiatrists cannot exist and cannot have clients without you having problems. And you can't have problems without creating time all the time in order to embed yourself in them. So to go to bed with your pain and misery is to be the best gift you could possibly give to your psychiatrist, counselor, or psychologist. It's the best thing that you could ever have. So if you don't do that, the psychiatrist has to pull out the rule from the rule book, which is, okay, if they can't admit that they have problems, which clearly I see in my judgment of them, then I need to say it's disassociation. Because by saying it's disassociation, I can then pin them with something that they didn't even want to be pinned with, but I can do it because they're just not responding. They have to be more triggered than this. They must be depressed. They must have a bunch of other hidden things that are going on. So it's just a perpetual loop of judgment. And they do this because if they can't find a problem in you, you're not going to come back into the office, and they won't have any justification to bill the insurance companies to keep getting paid for their blunders, which is essentially throwing people into the abyss for the sake of a paycheck. And I think it's pretty fucked up. That's disassociation in accordance to the DSM. But if we're talking about disassociation in truth, it is in fact meditation. So what meditation is in truth is saying to yourself, whatever this life situation is, however it's presenting itself to me, I, as a being of feeling, at least in part as a being of feeling, am not vibing it. Like it's just not sitting with me. And so in a way, I'm feeling a big fat no to whatever this is, and I'm not comfortable with it. So what a person can do properly in that moment, who's properly trained, is they can step into their imagination, find solace and safety and protection, and entertain something that is of true worth rather than falling into a story or a habit of a story that is permanent, that causes pain. I think that's self-destructive. I think it's masochistic, and I think we do it by default because it's how we're indoctrinated as human beings to believe that we're victims of external circumstances. But it's not our truth. I pray that answers disassociation, by stepping into the imagination, psychiatrists would say that that is some mental break, compartmentalizing. But in truth, what you're doing is you're loving yourself by stepping into a place that you would never choose to share with someone, especially someone who is judging you in order to feed off of you, to benefit off of your pain and off of your suffering, by perpetuating you into a situation or a cycle, because it's part of the laws of the KYBALION. Everyone seeks out their cycle, and the psychiatrist or the therapist, most of them, I'm saying, not all of them. I mean, I'm a counselor, so the way I work in counseling is like it's one and done. Most people come into this room, they get what they need, they go on their way. If they need a refresher, they come back. But for the most part, or if you're in the thick, then you're a student. Like you can decide to be a student and say, I'm going to come here religiously every single day because I want the pattern of constantly improving. It feels good to be constantly improving. It feels good to have this refresher and this feedback. So that's great. What's awesome about this is I can have 52 people coming in, receiving knowledge at the same time. And it can go up to however many. You can have 1 million people in this room receiving what it is they need without having to pay a single bit of attention beyond, I am feeling this, and you get the transmission complete. You don't have to pay anything for it. You don't have to go to your insurance companies for it. And I'm not claiming it to be medicine at all, because I'm a vagabond walking in the woods. But my aliveness is everything. So as long as I'm tapped into my aliveness, you get everything that you need. Okay? It's detachment in a way, sure. Detachment is the same as surrender in its truth. If we have an attachment to something, it means we have a story with something that we don't like. Or we do like it. We have an attachment to pleasure. But at the same time, it's still a story. And that story can't exist without us first using the imagination to create a construct of time. And by creating a construct of time, we can put things into it. We can compartmentalize life situations. What's unfortunate about this is the more we do this with our pain remembrances, the more the body feels it. Because of correspondence, as above, so below, as you feel yourself through the imagination in time, unconsciously for most, we'll use the imagination to construct time, to ruminate, worry, judge, or label. We do this unconsciously, most of us. So I believe it to be an erroneous use of God's infinite power, because we are using that aliveness to create a story that does not help with relieving us. But the ego wants you to believe the more you entertain time, talk about the past with yourself and others, the more you think about future situations which likely will never occur. Your ego will never say that to you. The ego always believes that future situations shall always exist and always happen, but they likely won't. About 90% of them never will. But the ego doesn't want you to believe that, know that, see that, hear that, because that is very threatening, because the ego can't exist without you creating time through your divineness. You have to use the infinite intelligence to create a construct of time, and then you have to entertain it in order for your identity to live. If you do not do that, your identity starts to die and dissolve, and you come into being. What comes from that is total relief from your pain and suffering. That can happen right now. In fact, it does for most people every day. That's called meditation. It's not disassociation, and it is not detachment so much as it's I don't care. What I care about is my aliveness. It doesn't move me as much as I observe I am alive. Therefore, I am alive, and I'm stepping into the now by going to a place where I'm totally loved. I'm with my perfect partner, my perfect wealth, my perfect wish fulfillment, and I'm not sharing this with anyone. Because if I were to share this with anyone, God forbid I do with my psychiatrist, I know it's going to be labeled as something negative that I'm trying to avoid. It's avoidance personality disorder. It's whatever it is to be pinned so that I can be labeled as only that, so that someone in an office can pay the rent and live off of me perpetually by telling me I'm a person who always has problems and that they feel bad for me. But that's why we have counseling. And I think it's the worst possible service you could give. And I think it's what the majority do. Why? Because what we are trained to do is exactly that. From the moment we are born, we're trained to fall in love with our problems, to develop life situations because it's how we relate with one another. And so by the time we come to college, we are totally diving in huge, crazy, insane love relationships with our problems. And we're talking about them all the time, so much and so frequently that we don't even want our bodies anymore. We don't even want anything but the problem. We just want to be in time, all the time. Have to have the past and have to worry about the future. And what this does is it drives people literally insane. People lose their minds in a bad way. They lose the mind of God and they start to idolize pain as their God. Not just their love relationship, not just their codependency, but pain becomes God to the individual. It is perpetual, it is infinite, it never stops, there's nothing that can be done about it, it's outside of self, and it is totally torturous all the time, to the point where if someone says the wrong word, or says something that is off in some way that doesn't make sense, that isn't totally clear, then you will question it, while in immediate suffering you feel it with your body. This is making God your pain. That's what most of us do. It's okay. It's a great thing to know that it's okay, because it's a story. It's just like anything else. We make this story because it gives us comfort of familiarity. It's okay. We're all very comfortable and familiar with our pain. What I would love, and it's just a secret desire, is for all of us to become comfortable and familiar with relief, without having to mask it with a substance or a lie, or the use of the imagination erroneously to create time to escape. I would love to see everyone come into their power by understanding that the imagination awaits them, awaits you. All you need to do is just step on in, use that childlike frequency, come in contact with your truth, that there are no limitations, and that you are being fed aliveness in order to experience there are no limitations. That God outside of you is not feeding you life. That God outside of you is feeding you something that you've already wished for. It is the reverberation of your correspondences with God. And it can't do anything about life. It can't change it. It can't do a damn thing, but it can certainly pretend it can. And that's the illusion of life. Everything outside of you seems to claim to know it has the problems solved or knows how to solve them, including myself. Right? If you're looking at me as a self, this is William. William has the answers to all of my prayers and all of my woes. He has the knowledge. I know this. Then you just have to take a step back for a moment and recognize the fact that I don't have all the answers as an identity, but I am a great radio. I'm a great radio. I can tune in to a frequency on the radio station of life, and I can project it with fluidity because I love it just as much as most of us do. You want to be fluid with everything that you ever want to hear and do. That does not come through force-feeding yourself or strong-arming the world, anything. In fact, it comes through the surrender of all that, okay? Arya says, yes, you are a projection frequency. Tune into the frequency. Indeed. Look at this here. The third rule of the KYBALION. It's like the first rule of Fight Club. There is no matter. There is no problem. Everything is vibration. Nothing rests. Everything moves. Nothing is static. So do not believe that this guy right here is going to permanently have the solution to all of your problems. The aliveness does. What's beautiful about this is the aliveness you have as well. It's no different than mine. Just as I eat food, it gets turned into cells. Does the same for you, maybe a little differently. Maybe not as efficiently, maybe even better. But what's true about this is you could take a deep breath in right now and you're going to get that nitric oxide if you breathe in through your nose. There's not a single person who can't do that. Now, are you the one in charge of making that nitric oxide and distributing it amongst your body to get all those endorphins? No. That's an infinite intelligence. That is more your truth, and it's more my truth than any name or collection of life experiences. Okay? Helios says you have a great way of teaching. Thank you. Kanalingua says it's beaming from you today, Billy boy. This is hysterical. Well, I'll tell you right now, folks, I'm just an antenna then. What's coming in is just what you love, if you stay. If not, wherever you go, you're going to go towards the rhythm of life that guides you to what you want and desire that is comfortable. What I feel comfort in, as an egoic self, is knowing the more I surrender, the better it gets. That's pretty good. The more I surrender to the station, the better the signal gets. Like a baby in the womb. I keep saying this. Instead of being the placenta and having to filter through all this garbage and not even get the benefits of what you're filtering through, because it all goes down the umbilical cord to the star child, you become the star child itself. And you don't have to pay attention to all that stuff that's going on that needs filtration, because there's a barrier between you and that. That's called the imagination. The barrier between your pain and suffering, and it serves as the filtration system itself and the healing system, is your imagination. It is the silver lining between any cloudy day that you could possibly conjure in your mind. And that's what's beautiful about it. It's here for you. It serves you. It loves you. It heals you. Okay? Conalingua says, finding the right station is quite a journey. It certainly can be. And for Andretti, it could be right now. It's everyone has their own unique life situation going on, and it's all valuable, and it's all divine. Pelios, thank you for subscribing. That was really kind. It's awesome. Thank you very much. I'm glad that I won your confidence. Andretti, thank you for following. Arya says, surrender and flow. That's exactly it. This is what works. The way of the drummer followed. Thank you. Arya says, thank you for this conversation. You're most welcome, Arya. Leb says, yes, so much of awakening is learning to tune your radio consciously. Let's pin that. It's a beautiful way to say it. All right. Jads, thank you for following. Law 23, you too. And I think we are just about caught up. Julie, if I didn't get you before, sometimes I forget. Thank you for following. Living on Purpose 8, you too. Arya says, every time you wake, you must be aware you are in a simulation. Start creating on purpose, awareness. We'll talk about the simulation. It's a good place to go. Thank you, Arya. And before we get into that, let's thank Alwet for following. Cameo 777. Vani, thank you for your kindnesses today. Overhoff wants to talk about detachment. Sure. And Outlaw Priestess, who's back, nice to see you, says, I'm doing what you're doing. It just looks a bit different. And that is totally understandable. Like we're all creating a specific dish for ourselves, or we're all seeking a specific game or effect within the game. Composing a song, whatever it is, it all has a beginning, middle, and end as long as it's projected here in this reality. It all has its cycle. And it can totally vary. And in fact, if it doesn't vary, we don't have that diversity of variance, then it becomes very boring and we don't enjoy it and we start to lose interest in it. And that's the last thing you want to do, is lose interest in the life situation you were given by God. Kimber says, boom. Arya says, you must create in the imagination to experience it in reality. I am I, says Larry Rubin. That is a good drop right there. Mentalism, says Vani is, so Vani is on mentalism right now with the KYBALION. Sharni sending over some roses. That would be 11 for strength. Thank you for doing that. Strength for all. Algorithm says Johnny 444. And Arya says we must learn to be aware of our imagining. So let's get to, there's Overhoff, upgrade our antenna. Mel, thanks for following. Caveman Productions says much love. Thank you, Caveman. Donk I, thank you for sending the heart me. And it says, our team has completed the first stage of the team quest. Team cheers has been unlocked for all team members to send and celebrate. Walking Granny says, thank you. I needed this today. You're most welcome, Walking Granny. Welcome. Kimber, I think I got you before. Thank you for following. Gary Long Harley, thank you for following. Pelios, I really appreciate your subscription. Very grateful to you. Caveman and Tammy sending roses in right now. And when you finish, enjoy a blue sky. Thank you very much, Larry. Right back at you. Enjoy some of that. And so we have a couple things to go into as we're talking about the radio station of life. Vani, thank you for that gift. The team cheer coming through. I think that's the first one we saw here. Folks are really pushing for our ranking today. Nice. We can tell everyone about the attachments to competition and how we're far above that. Just kidding. I mean, we could say it. All right, let's see. Let's talk about the simulation. Okay? Let's talk about this simulation. So how do I know that this is a simulation? Let's talk about what a simulation truly is, okay? To understand that, we have to understand the truth of the name hollow or holographic. We talk about hollow, like hallowed be thy name. We're talking about holy or whole or complete. Most of the time when we hear the word holographic, you think it's something that is intangible, that is fake, make-believe, it's incomplete. We usually think that when it comes to something holographic. Now, I want you to just get that out of your mind for a moment. Start to understand that this first rule of the KYBALION states, mentalism, all is mind, okay? How can it be that everything around us is, in fact, just a thought? That's pretty profound, because I can feel this piece of paper in my hand, and you can certainly hear the rustling of it. You can see my body, but the bottom line is, you're experiencing these things as electric signals coming and going in your brain, firing and wiring. Can't deny it. Now, if we go further beyond that correspondence, let's go deeper. On the level of quantum phenomena, the double slit experiment discusses this, and also Schrodinger's cat gives examples of there are always two situations, polarity, always two situations that possibly exist at all times. And depending on what we pay attention to the most, seems to find its way into reality, more than not and very frequently. Not all the time, because of course we have momentum with all the other previous decisions we've made, in addition to the previous decisions made by the genetics that rest in our body through DNA. It is a storage device, a recording medium that records information for its transmission, which is instantaneous and proven scientifically now. Since 2013, we've understood that subatomic particles, electrons, can be transferred, coming and going between DNA strands instantaneously in the form of teleportation without any delay. So it's basically stating it can be in two places at once. It's the same as saying something can transfer itself to another place instantaneously is the same as saying it's at two places at once. It's like this. You see the top of this page, there's a little hole, okay? Well, what happens if we fold this page and you still see the hole there, but I take my finger and I punch my finger through that hole. Oops, there we go. And now you see that hole is there, but if we, sorry, it's a big rip now. It's not the best example. If I had a pen, it would be a much better, because I could poke a hole. Now we unfold this page, and look at what is here. The law of correspondence, as above, so below. It actually worked better with the rip, because you can see, even though I poked one hole or made one rip, because it was folded, it created one through correspondence on the bottom. How interesting is that? One rip, two holes. So is everyone catching on? Every time you rip something in your life, every time you make a decision, you're in effect making a decision on two timelines. So we're constantly splitting off timelines all the time. and everything is moving and everything is vibration. Wow, this KYBALION is really freaking powerful. I keep seeing these correspondences occur, and we can take it even further. Every bit of composition that we experience as physical to our body must have a nucleus, electrons, and protons. Okay, so it has to have polarity. Electrons, protons, and a nucleus, or else it doesn't work. All right. So everything has to be polar, and one has to be active and the other has to be passive. One has to be masculine, the other one has to be feminine. They work in correspondence. Yet it's all just an idea in the mind of God? How could that be? Well, the double slit experiment explains this. Where the human mind pays attention, that's where it goes. It has an effect on a collapsing of subatomic information from a unified field. It is called orchestrated objective reduction, or ORC-OR. So it goes from a state of infinite, which I'm trying to depict for you by going, ooh, that's infinite, okay? It goes from the mind of God, which is infinite, where all possibilities exist. It is the framework of the game of life that we're all experiencing, the source, okay? Collapsing in a reduction. So it's an orchestrated, which means it's put together in harmony, right? Vibrations. Objective, which means we can observe it, we can experience it, and it's reduced from everything into something. Everything into something. And through correspondence, it must mean that we must be everything, the imagination, and something, a human body, at the same time. We have to be both in order for the perception of reality to be consciousness. It cannot exist without both. The simple and the complex, the active and the passive, the masculine and the feminine, the on and the off, the light and the darkness, the sun and the moon, the in-breath and the out-breath. We can't have breathing without the in-breath and the out-breath. So you can't have any existence with anything without the correspondence of the two. Okay? All right. GL, thank you for following. Morgan Land Maintenance, I got to pin this. Maddie says it's all about duality, and it's 100% correct, Maddie. This experience of reality, because it's holographic, or the explanation of how it is holographic is, in order for something to be holographic, it must have this duality. To have resistance between the light and the dark, better to say the resistance between positive and negative charges, creates light in the middle. And by becoming centered, which is your imagination, the source of everything that is provided, you are actually stepping into the womb of creation for manifestation. That's what this is about. Knowing that it's not just a silver lining, that it is everything, but it also serves as your salvation. It's your basic point of retreat and point of relief. It's your vacation zone. And so you may be saying, okay, I have a wild imagination. Yes, it's just another story. And what I'm telling you right now is just another story, but the bottom line is this. Everyone who woke up this morning also woke up this morning. That's a big thing. But beyond that, everyone can step into the imagination right now. There's not a single person, regardless of your physical ability, whatever your intelligence may be, whatever definitions you've given yourself through life experience, not a single human being is absent of the imagination. Not one. And not a single human being is given restrictions in that imagination unless you say, I don't have a good imagination. I just can't use it. I'm not in a place where I understand how it goes. It's confusing to me. It doesn't feel good to me. It doesn't feel familiar. I can't make anything happen. Okay. The beauty of it is the imagination was just used for the creation of all of that narrative, just as it was used for the transmission of what I just said as a description of that narrative. Neither one of us can escape the fact that Source delivered both. So as long as you understand that that Source is the imagination, that it is feeding us our aliveness, then you can use it for your salvation. Salvation in Aramaic is called Yeshua, or Jesus. Jesus means salvation. We are seeking it in all that we do, but we are seeking it erroneously. This is why Jesus said, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." They're seeking their salvation outside of themselves by putting people at odds with one another, crucifying individuals who don't say the right words, doing things that they don't like. Forgive them for that. They have no idea what they're doing. They have an infinite kingdom of heaven within them that they are actually using for restricting themselves. And that's what they need to be forgiven for. Not because they've done atrocious things. What does that matter? I'm about to go die on a cross. It's like, it's not what it was about. It was about the misuse of the imagination for the creation of restrictions and limitations and odds with one another in order to somehow placate the ego into feeling safe from obliteration. This is why the Pharisees were crucifying Christians. They were afraid of the message that everyone had an infinite source of creation within them. What does that do to a society? It causes it, if you're trying to enslave everyone and get them to work as if they're an enslaved species, it gets everyone to question it. It gets everyone to rise up and decide that they're no longer going to be subject as a victim of external circumstances, that they're going to take propriety and ownership over their lives. And because Jesus of Nazareth did this, he was seen as a zealot. He was seen as a heretic, and he was crucified for it. You got to understand. He wasn't alone as an embodiment of God. He was just ahead of the curve, by far. I mean, his disciples got it, especially Paul. He probably got it the most. But this is what it's about. California Kid the Valley, thank you for following. Selena says, these are the convos I need in real life. I'm so happy that I'm seeing these things today because it makes me feel like it's coming through. Vanny says separation. California Kid the Valley says, my imagination is really wild because some of that comes through. I love that. I get it. That's like deep. That's the mind of a writer right here. California Kid the Valley has the mind of a writer. That's what people want to read in a book. Leb says, the restrictions we experience are self-imposed. Yes, this is correct, Leb. How beautiful to know that we've manifested them too, that we've actually used our power to create everything around us. Gives us a much different perspective on life. The Father says, you told us about the square. I did, Father. I did tell you about the square. We can talk about the square again. Mandala Flies says we're dreaming it into being. We have coherence today. Beautiful coherence. Morgan Land Maintenance shared several times. Thanks, Morgan. Coral, you too. Carol. Carol Corey shared. See how ahead I am? So I'm reading like Da Vinci. Mazapat, thanks for following. The box. Okay, we're going to talk about the box and the square. Father wants to talk about the box and the square, so we got to go there now, all right? It's a good one to go into, too. I love talking about the box and the square. I love talking about dimensions. Because if we talk about dimensions, then we can get into correspondence. You're going to see how correspondence works in the KYBALION, how it's described through the dimensions and how they evolve. Maddie, I think I got to you. Lil Deb, thanks for following. Maddie says, all about duality. Indeed. That's our existence. GL, thanks for following. Okay, I think we're caught up here. Outside or inside the box? Your choice. Let's talk about it. Circling that square, lol. Yeah, indeed. Now we're getting into Da Vinci again. Okay, Selena wants to hear about the box. Let's talk about it. Namaste, starseeds. Welcome. Everyone get comfy. Enjoy yourselves. It's nice and slushy here today, and it's warm as can be, so I'm really happy to be walking this trail in our routine as a form of rhythm to talk about the box. Okay, so Father had mentioned the box as it's there pinned for another 5 seconds, but before then, Father had said, talk about the square. So let's talk about the square. What is a square? What is a square without a line? In fact, what is a square without 4 lines? What is a line? How can we define a line? Well, let's start there. A line, like this stick, has a beginning, middle, and end. We can all see that pretty clearly. Raul and Vaughn. Raul, thank you for following, and Vaughn, thanks for sharing. Okay, dimensions and correspondence is one of my favorite subjects. Awesome, Lev. We're getting into it right now, and we're going to have fun with it. A line has a beginning, a middle, and an end. We've all come to that conclusion. Okay, great. But in between the beginning, middle, and end, for it to be a line, there has to be a defined linear progression. You have either left or right, or top and bottom, but it's one straight line. And if it's not a straight line, then it's a curve in the making, right? So what we have in this example is a straight line with one point leading to a middle point, leading to an end point. But in between, we have infinite amounts of points. In fact, you could say one point is infinite, and every point leading to the middle and leading from the middle to the end is infinite. They're just scrunched up against one another. There's not a lot of space. And that's why I say pour infinite points of creation, because the last thing, even the atoms of your body and your big cells to them, they want as much space as they can possibly get. So the compromise that the line made in order to have more space, knowing that it was just a bunch of teeny tiny infinite points being scrunched up against one another to create a form, they decided, through the infinite wisdom of their imagination, that if they joined forces, then they could bring together 4 lines of equal distance, layer them together, and form a square. So the lines proposed this to other lines, and they're like, what are you talking about, dude? We got the infinite source of creation. We got a beginning, middle, and end. It's awesome. What are you talking about? You don't need anything more. You don't need space. What are you talking about? You need space. Well, we could have a lot more space. I thought about it. What do you mean you thought about it? You got a wild imagination, says the line to the other line. So that line gives up on that line. Mike says, I remember this example. And it was right here, Mike. This is what's beautiful about it. The line was discussed at this very point in the cycle because of rhythm and correspondence and just frequency. We have now a coming of full circle. This is exactly where it was discussed on this trail. This is why you're gonna see how space and time function relative to your desire. Synchronicities show you that you are moving in the direction of your desire. It's really wild stuff when we go through this day after day, but you will start to see this more and more in your own daily routines. The more you're aware of it, and the more you become aware with it, the more you'll understand that you're being present to do it. And as long as you're being present, you're in the womb. Everything that you need and want is being organized without having to know the plan. So that's what the line thought. Went to some others and said, hey, I just need 3 more of you guys. I just need 3 more of you guys. I want to line up in this way. And it's going to be on a 2-dimensional platform. What's a 2-dimensional platform? I can't explain to you what it is right now, but we just have to do it together. Listen, can you just go right here and join with my head? And so the line says, okay, I'm joining my head with yours. Okay, now bring your feet over there. I'm going to find some others. Somebody's head's going to join with yours, or it's going to be their feet. But whatever way it is, it doesn't really matter so much. It just has to be joined, okay? So we have to unify head and feet all together, beginning and end, top and bottom, left and right. We're going to get it all together, and we just need 4 of us to do it. I see it in my mind. So lines come together, and they form an equilateral square. And within that, for the first time, they can finally let go of all the restrictions, all the scrunched up feeling they had of being a singular line in a linear fashion. They suddenly had all of this space within a construct. And so they started sending out all these messages to one another. There were infinite possibilities, and they were bouncing all around, and they formed into something called frequency. A dimensional shift from the faith of believing that something in unity could actually be greater than the sum of its parts. Very important to keep in mind. As dimensional shifts occur it becomes greater than the sum of its parts. So the 4 lines become greater than 4 individual lines when they come together. They form a construct from which frequency and feedback can occur. Because you send out a wave, it hits the wall, and it comes back. Then it goes back and forth. And then it dissipates, has a beginning, middle, and end. So now you have timeline. The 2-dimensional space, that is the square, is the foundation for your holographic experience. Light is passing through it to give you the perception of 3D, but it is recorded in 2D, which should seem impossible, but it's not. This is the process of layering proteins. So proteins layer in a uniform fashion through the DNA of your body, which stores information of life experience and creates a manifold expression, one layer at a time, filling in itself to give you a life experience. But it happens so fast that you're likely to miss it. But everything is flickering, coming and going, collapsing and returning from a unified position, superposition, or unified field into your reduced experience of reality, which is in fact holographic, and it is powered by photons. We get some of these photons from this beautiful source of light. In fact, we absorb a lot of these in the plants that we eat and the animals that we eat. In addition to that, the cells of our body also emit biophotons. So the light that is emitted from the sun in the form of photons and the light that we emit from the cells of our body after absorbing light from the food that we eat serves as the projection mechanism that gives us the holographic experience. All right. That works through what's called microtubules. You should look up microtubules and see how they function between quantum phenomena and reducing things in infinite source to what you experience in your local life. This is local reality 101. And that's what we're talking about. It's the holographic experience of your life, right? It's recorded in a 2-dimensional medium that's holographic and managed by your DNA, also stored by your DNA. Has enough storage capacity to record your entire life experience from beginning to end and then some, plus the sensory feedback system that you get from interacting with this. Firing and wiring in the brain right now, but I'm perceiving my hand coming in contact with this beautiful tree, and I am blissed out of my mind with anandamide released into my body through the psychopharmacology of surrender. That's what I'm experiencing right now. Peak experience through surrender. And I love it. I'm addicted to it. That's why I come back every day. That's why there's rhythm. Doesn't deny the fact that it's being powered by a source that is light, photons. Okay? And if you take those photons and you throw them against a barrier in some way, you can start to observe how your thoughts influence those photons. The double slit experiment explains this in scientific ways. This is why Albert Einstein ran from quantum phenomena, wanted nothing to do with it, because it was frightening to suddenly understand that we became what we think about. This was not an area of interest for him, but it was an area of interest for other scientists. And you most certainly can believe nowadays that it's the foundation of just about every bit of quantum computing that is being developed. The fact that we become what we think about is the foundation of quantum science and quantum computing. Zach, you want to return to the portal? Here's a portal for you. Hold on. There we go. There's your photons. Okay. Conalingua says, prokaryote to eukaryote to multicell to complex organisms with multiple organs hosting smaller vibes. Yes. What corresponds with this is another form of rhythm. It was this very place in the woods that was maybe a week ago. Just want to point this out, Conalingua, you were here in the live, and we were talking about God Speaks by Mayor Baba, in which this is explained in great detail. It was exactly here. I was turned at this point, and the fact that I can remember it is because I was in peak experience. And when you do that, your mind learns faster, you wire better. You could go back to the views and the videos and you can see it was exactly this point. And I mentioned Mayor Baba, God Speaks, because it describes exactly what you say here in synchronicity. And so we are having a synchronistic moment. And it's just so beautiful because it proves the fact that we have this rhythm. It's natural to the universe. It's rhythmic. Thanks for all the love, everyone. We're at 17,700 feet above sea level. And it's not too far of a stretch. You know, it's exactly what is described in the evolution of consciousness by Mayor Baba in God Speaks. It's very dense, very difficult reading at first, but it eventually seeps in. Kanalingua, nice to see you. Tyler's here. What's up, Tyler? Mazapat says, I hope to be more scientific in my art this spring when the sun comes out. Let's talk about hope. Let's talk about hope right now, okay? So, and this is by no means a judgment. It's simply to explain what hope is. Hope is the creation of distance between that which we desire and what we believe ourselves to be in now, which is in a state of lack. Now, it could be minor. Whatever it is, in this case, it could be more scientific in your art. There's a distance between you and that, in accordance to the statement and the use of I am. So, the idea here is you want to be more scientific in your art this spring when the sun comes out. So, in order to do this, in truth, you must be in the spring, so you can be there. It is the spring, and you are more scientific. How scientific? You could say, whatever it is that you admire in science, whoever is the scientist that you want to admire, you simply say, infinite intelligence, please deliver to me this intelligence that is superior and even greater than this person, knowing that it's my desire and I see it as real right now. Thank you. Whatever it is that you're doing for this person with their intellect, do it for me and more. That way there's no interference with the individual and you get the downloads, plus some unique embellishments that are only yours. And that's why you can be free as a bird when it comes to explaining things and being however descriptive you want to be with your art and music. As long as you are sharing it in flow, it will always come through as original. It will always show its originality. Anyone trying to follow in your coattails will simply fail in comparison. It's like trying to use your body to do the work of God. It just doesn't work. So you just keep creating. And that keeps you ahead. If that's the desire, you may not want to be ahead. You may want to just surrender it all. That could be like going total monkish, and that's good too. That's what I'm trying to say. It's all your choice. Crossroads, Lynn 948, thanks for following. Everything really, thanks for following. Father says, hologram, double split, no hope. Yes. These are good affirmations. Hope is an answered prayer of distance between yourself and your desire. It is an answered prayer because you have the distance between you and your desire. So hope is the answered prayer. However, the truth to the subconscious is the desire is to be separate or at a distance from the thing that you want. So hope is great if you want distance. Now, why would we want distance? A lot of people actually do want it because it allows there to be a narrative of lack. And when we have a narrative of lack, we can relate to one another. And if we can relate enough to one another through narratives of lack, then we can be codependent upon one another to fulfill some hole that otherwise would be vacant without that person. And that could also be a desire. Be totally codependent with somebody else. We have a lot of those narratives. I mean, I'm codependent with the earth. The earth just happens to express all the seeds of my desire through the imagination. So I have a good partner. But I could also have a partner who I believe is the answer to all my prayers and totally be just wrecking that person through that belief system. I mean, it's not fair. It's trespassing. But I could do it. I did it a lot in the past. I was in what's called serial monogamy. Jump from one relationship to another because the hole was filled for a certain amount of time, and then there's a feeling of wholeness, and then that feeling of wholeness says, you don't need this person. So you leave the person, and they don't feel whole. And so they start seeking somebody else out because they think they need to have somebody else to feel whole. Next thing you know, it becomes really addicting. It becomes a pattern that is very common and desired without knowing what it's really doing. It's creating a vacancy, a distance between oneself and their wish-fulfilled state by constantly seeking out the answers outside of self, as opposed to from within, by being it. So you say it, I'm with my perfect partner in the perfect way. I'm making perfect love every day. I have all the desires. Everything is met. There's not a single thing around me that I haven't gotten yet. Everything I want, everything I need, I find myself never having to bleed. All of the pain, all of the awry sadness has gone to some place and turned into gladness. There you go. And that was a moment. It's like Thich Nhat Hanh says. This was another moment when I talked about Thich Nhat Hanh, right here. I said you should read How to Love by Thich Nhat Hanh, right here. Because Thich Nhat Hanh, God rest his soul, I mean, he's probably not resting because nothing truly rests. Everything is vibrating. But you get what I'm saying. It's just to be respectful because he's deceased, is to say, in his book, How to Love, you conclude every conversation by saying, this is a good moment. A good moment. The father asks, is everything not coded? Well, here's how we get to the good stuff. Thanks, Leb. Overhoff is laughing with me. All right. G-Ma Jeter, good to see you again. Thanks for this. Heart me. Let's talk about this right here from the Father. Father, you're guiding us down a beautiful path today, a path of enlightenment. There is nothing inherently real, good, or bad until thinking it makes it so. We have made it to the second dimension, which is the square, but we have yet to talk about the cube. You see, the cube is unique in two ways from the square. One, it requires 6 iterations of squares in order to form into a cube, thus making 3 dimensions. That's unique. Has to be unified, organized, and put to the perfect right angle. Once it's organized, unified, and set at right angles, it forms into a higher dimensional object referred to as a cube. That is the 3-dimensional standard of construct from which frequency can operate and give us the perception of reality. It is the holograph that everyone is walking around on their pilgrimage to Mecca. You'll also see it on the arms of an Israeli who is practicing spirituality. You will see the cube in a number of different symbolic representations having to do with God. And beyond that, it also reduces in a way, which I can explain to you better with a pen next time, of how the cube actually is the joining of 2 triangles, the masculine and the feminine, which actually forms the symbol of the Star of David, a hexagram. In other words, a hexagram is the 2-dimensional framework from which light passes through and gives you the 3D cube experience. But it's going through a hexagram that is set in a 2D holograph for you to have your experience. This is why if you go and watch Hollywood movies, especially Disney movies, especially, I don't know, you could go through a number of movies, you're going to see the hexagram everywhere because it's the holographic 2-dimensional representation of the cube, okay? It's the foundation for all the illusion that is your reality. So you're going to see it everywhere. Now when you go into the Disney movies, you're going to be saying, wow, that's not just a snowflake, that's a hexagram. Okay. That's not just a wall, that's an array of polygonal, tetrahedral, and otherwise hexagonal, 2-dimensional, holographic planes, just light passing through, showing me everything now. I see it all in Hollywood. I see it everywhere I go. It is the thing that everyone reveres as God itself outside of us. The holograph is God. For the large majority. For the large majority who believe that they are restricted by the three-dimensional space, that they are subject to it and victims of it. But we're not that. Remember, we're infinite intelligence. As long as we unify enough cubes, just like the square unified into the cube itself, just like the lines unified into the square itself, with enough cubes, with enough holographic projections in unification through the surrender of unity at right angles, this can actually form into a higher dimensional state of being, something that is 4D and beyond. Now we're getting somewhere. Now we are getting somewhere. But we have to convince people and say, all right, I got this great idea. There's this fourth dimension, and it's the representation of the cube, but it's 8 of us instead of just 6 squares. We're 8 total cubes. Can we all come together in unification at right angles? And we form into something even greater than the sum of our parts. We get to actually be the creators of our reality. We come into being with God, the infinite intelligence, and we become what we think about instantaneously. We manage each and every rendition and day of our lives. There's no restriction in time and space. It's unbelievable. And I want you to join me, says the cube. And then the cube walks home, friendless, without any love or affection. The poor cube's friends and family have given up on them, said, that's disassociation. He just doesn't want to be with us anymore. He says he wants unification, but I don't want to give up my life situation to join with his. His is messed up. So the cube keeps walking home sadly every day. More and more friends leaving him behind, letting go of whatever good was once there. And everyone else just adhering to their own little individual cube and having their life experience. Meanwhile, this one cube doesn't want to give up on the idea that there could be something more than just this holographic projection. There could be something greater. We could actually record these events into something that is three-dimensional instead of just a flat hexagonal plane from which light goes through, which is cool. We can be instant creation if we became something that's a higher dimension. And I know how we can do it, but no one wants to do it with me. And that's the dilemma. No one wants to give up the identity. No one wants to surrender to something that is a higher power in order to unify and become greater than the sum of its parts, except the individual. So what happens then? The individual starts thinking, I don't need to have a plan. I know that, because the imagination does it better. I don't need to know the way. I don't even have to create time. In fact, if I do, it leads to suffering, and that's what everyone else has got themselves into. So I don't have to do that. I don't have to entertain time, and I don't have to have the plan, and I don't have to know the way. Just as the line didn't need to know the way, it just needed to give in and surrender, and it would join at right angles in unification and be fine. I don't have to do anything, but just be. So the cube starts to be, starts to say, I observe I am alive. I observe my aliveness. Suddenly, pieces start to be organized that could never be moved, the mountains as they were, shifting. Suddenly, things outside of this cube appear a lot different than the day before. One day there was corruption in a 3-letter agency. The next day, total transparency. Next thing you know, all this stuff that was stolen before starts to come back. And all the cube is doing is just observing aliveness while everyone is clamoring about how this is totally wrong or it's great, but they're trying to somehow control it, stop it, move it, change it, whatever it is. And all this cube does is just observe it is alive. Meanwhile, more changes. A lot of things start shifting. All the things the cube wanted, that it kept imagining, by going into that place that allowed the line to become a square, the square to become a cube, is now making this cube become a fourth dimensional version of itself. The Tesseract. Oh yeah, there is such a thing in the mind of God. There's Overhoff says, keys to the universe. Listen to him. Listen to the aliveness that is Overhoff. Thanks, Overhoff. The All Spark. All is one. Apple user says, so be present, observe, and alive. Can't help but to be that, right? Be exactly how a babe in the womb would be. This doesn't mean you have to give up on all your tasks and things. Do the things that you love, that give you fulfillment. Do the things that in your gut tell you should instinctually step towards, but the moment that you start to say no, like a defined no that you feel in your body, it's simply trying to prompt you to make an adjustment to surrender, to observe what is going on around you, and then step into the imagination and become a piece that is being organized by a superior intelligence to become something greater than you, that you never could become without its assistance. Just like you could never heal your body without its assistance. Just like you could never turn your food that you eat into cells without its assistance. It's the same thing. That's surrender. Every time you eat food, yes, you are surrendering. You're surrendering that it's going to give you everything that you need. And you just kind of take it for granted. So why not do that with this dimensional shift? It's no different. Do it with money. Do it with love. Do it with wish fulfillment. Because right now we're just doing it with painful remembrances. We entertain them, and that's what we're also using our power to do, but it's erroneous because it leads to suffering and it never has a conclusion that we desire. We could pretend, we could be masochists. And there will always be masochists. Always. Because we have to have this polarity in order for there to be light. I'm just saying, folks, there's no one in line on the side of the baby. We got a big bunch of people here calcified around the placenta that are complaining about their lives, that are feeding this baby and not getting any of the benefit. Only a few on the top are getting some, but they know this is calcifying and they're jumping ship. So why not become the baby? By surrendering instead of fighting. Because by fighting, you join the front lines that is the placenta. Remember, the placenta started as a blastocyst, which is a form of cancer that invaded the body of the female. And eventually the infinite intelligence says, this child's more important than the placenta that tried to take over this body. This cancer that tried to make its way is fucked. And it's going to be turned into a slave. And it's going to do everything that I say to feed this child who doesn't have to do anything but float there and enjoy blissed out dreams, receiving the psychopharmacology of bliss in the form of all these endorphins that will be extracted from the placenta, that the placenta will never know, come to enjoy, or experience itself, but it has to produce it. See where we're going here? Everyone see where we're going? Think you can? Think you can relate? We can all relate to this, can't we? Apple user, thank you for saying that. It is the aliveness that is coming through you that is the genius. This is just this is a human body. This human body is beautiful. I say namaste. Thank you. Leb says, that just said a whole lot. I appreciate the depth of the analogy. You're welcome, Leb. The placenta analogy in the Star Child, which is the same as the lotus, it's another parable. The lotus parable is a beautiful one that we can discuss now if you'd like. These were all discovered here in the woods, through the biofields of these trees giving me love and helping me through hardship. If I weren't open to it, these stories would never exist, and they came from the trees. Of all places, these free electrons healing me. And you'll get this from the ocean. You'll get this from a running stream. You'll certainly get it from a waterfall. Anywhere there's free electrons bouncing around. You'll get it from a little lonely stone in your backyard that you squeeze and give love to. It'll help you. Thanks, Overhoff. Pashal, thank you for following. And Fax, thank you. David Voice of Hope says, I am David, of course, and I'm William. And I'm also the infinite intelligence that manages him, as are you the infinite intelligence that manages David. One is all is one. Thanks for following Hurricane. And, okay. It says you see this? We've been live for 90 minutes. Doesn't feel like it, because time does not exist when we're flowing. Tyler says, do you listen to frequencies 963 hertz, 4 to 7 theta? Yes, for astral projection. So the thing I was explaining before, Sharni says, that's why I'm drawn to waterfalls. Most definitely, it's going to be anti-inflammatory. It's going to be a mood elevator. The sound itself gives you endorphins through ASMR, which is autonomous sensory meridian response. It's tingles. You get all the free electrons coming into your body that drop out impurities and basically cause free radicals to no longer have a chance to affect your body. All the while, you're getting the benefit of being around nature, and just its bombardment against each other, releasing electrons into your body, is unbelievably therapeutic for you. Unbelievably. Sharni says, oh, well, you're spot on. Yeah, it's a huge mood elevator. Just to be in the woods, because these trees release free electrons or negative ions, because the earth is negatively charged, so they release from here like an antenna. You can get close to it, you can hug a tree, and you're going to feel better. It's going to give you endorphins. You can pretend that you don't feel better. That's stupid. But there's a reason why hippies hug trees. Maybe they don't know it, but you can tell them now. Yes, so water that is flowing like a stream or a waterfall or an ocean current is unbelievably good for your inflammation, because it is releasing free electrons which pass through your skin and bind to free radicals. Thus, they drop out before they can have an effect on your cell structures. So it reduces inflammation, because free radicals cause inflammation and cause cortisol levels to spike. In order to reduce that inflammation, i.e. the intelligence is at work hard to try to defend you, no longer has to go to battle and can chill out and focus on the things that you truly want, which is, let's go to have a nice Mai Tai at the beach and enjoy this beautiful umbilical cord that's feeding us as a baby, and just live life the way we've always wanted. And we fuel ourselves through the imagination that it's on vacation. So that's the only job we have to do. Is use the imagination to go to that wish-fulfilled state. If we can be around environmental factors that are conducive for our health, it's even better. It's just like the cherry on top. So if you can change your environment, that's great. But if you can't change your environment, a lot of people say, okay, what can I do about this situation that's impossible? Maybe you're in solitary confinement, right? So if you're in solitary confinement, the same principle adheres to this rule. You have to go into the imagination and be in that place of wish fulfillment all the same. And your cells will believe to be on vacation. Eventually, this will leave enough of an impression on the subconscious mind, and it must be realized in your physical world. But it's a lot like the trees. The nutrients from the trees, they go very slowly and lead to a manifestation over time. So the last thing that you're going to see is the change in your physical world. The first thing you're going to see is what you feel in the body. Actually, the first thing that you're going to feel is you using the imagination. Then you're going to feel the changes of your cells in your body, and then the physical world outside of you, the projection of it, shall adjust. But that's the basic way it goes. It's a sequence. Okay? A lot of us just want to have it right now. We want to have the tangible thing right now, don't want to do any of the work, don't want to go there. I get it. Because we're creatures of feeling, we truly want that. But faith and its exercise requires seeing it as real in the mind's eye, the imagination, which is Christ, before it is manifest before you. Your ability to do that consistently is called faith. And it leaves an incredible imprint on the subconscious mind, which is the womb of creation, which brings forth all that is manifest. It doesn't discriminate against us or judge us at all. That's the job of the Father. The Father does all the judging. And that's any time that you decide to entertain a thought. You're acting as the Father, planting a seed in the mind of God. And it must bring it forth if you feel it enough. So what we're trying to do here is colonize our thinking. Recolonize it by using the imagination productively instead of using it destructively. It's used productively when we are here in the now, stepping into a place where we feel wish fulfilled. It is used destructively when we unconsciously use it to entertain stories that are no longer here. They're in the past, i.e. they already happened, or they're in the future. What if? I'm worried. that kind of thing. If we're using that, then what it does is it builds up a pain remembrance in the body that we have to then unwind later, or it's going to remind us that it's present. So what people do usually when the pain remembrance comes up and reminds you that it's present, you feel a profound sense of no. Like, I can't deal with this. I don't like this situation. This situation is undesirable. Shit, I got to block this. I've got to cancel this. I got to fight this person. I've got to mask this with some drugs. I got to do it right now. Whatever that is basically the ego saying you cannot resolve these issues by being present. You can at best mask it. The only way you can resolve your problems is if you keep feeding the story to me. That's what the ego says, because the ego can't stay alive without it. So the ego, in a way, is quite deceptive in trying to get you to believe that you can resolve your problems by creating time through the imagination to keep entertaining it, when in fact you're just building up a pain body. And that eventually breaks you down. It can lead to disease, it can lead to a number of things, and beyond that, it also has an effect on the external world. It comes in the form of manifestation, okay? So just trying to give you your power back is really what it is, for you to claim your power. It has nothing to do with this body or yours. It has entirely to do with your source as God, accepting that you're the creator of your identity, that you accepted the creation of your identity. And instead of being a victim of it now, you're just going to take it back into your possession, and you're going to say, whatever these stories are as they come up, I don't have to like them. I don't have to fight them. I don't have to be okay with them. I don't have to do anything with them. In fact, I'm going to leave this side of the placenta, and I'm going to step through the narrow gates, the portal or the umbilical cord of the imagination, which is light, and I'm going to go to the side of the star child that I've always been all along and reside in my wish-fulfilled kingdom of heaven. I'm going to add everything that I want, and I'm going to experience everything that I want, and I'm not going to do that as much as I am that experiencing it now, because I've already arrived. I'm talking to you from that place. That is me right now. In truth, I'm talking to you from that place. That's why you see the smile. Because you should know that I'm with the perfect partner in the perfect way. I'm with my perfect children in perfect health, with perfect mobility. We're enjoying all the scenarios. We're going to Disney at the same time we're going to Nintendo World in Japan. We're actually in both places at once because the imagination gives you such a thing. I'm also constructing a beautiful home in Tahoe right now, since the real estate has dropped quite a bit in California in this scenario in my mind. Everyone mismanaging all of that has led to a great opportunity for the acquisition of property amongst the cleanest of clean water on the planet Earth itself. And I have a nice spot in my mind reserved to where I'm actually drinking that water from a Yeti bottle that is the Tahoe blue color itself. I'm looking down through the crystal clear waters, and I'm listening to my children in the distance laugh while burning circles on their jet skis. I am there. It's the truth. Liz, OMG. Liz sends butterfly dances for the first time in my life. Huge. Thank you, Liz. Can you take them with you? Yes, you can take everyone with you. There are no restrictions in the mind of God. And God already knows your desires because it is providing you the life experience to develop desires. It already knows what you want. It gave you life and continues to. So you don't have to have the plan. Just step into the womb. Just go to the womb. Feel the comfort of that story that I just said if it resonates with you. If not, make your own. Go to Bora Bora. Go on a trip to Mars. Get your ass to Mars. Whatever it is, man. It's whatever you want. I certainly have no say on it, nor can I deliver you any restriction in truth. So it's wonderful. Apple user says, "Oh my, do I?" Lol. Lee Rex, thanks for following. And Grandma Jeter, thanks for sending the team bracelets. Tyler Level says, was the orange shirt buzzing? Okay, 4 to 7 theta hertz. Okay, I forgot about hertz. Let's talk about hertz. When I say to you that I am in peak experience right now, what I am saying to you is my body is in the resting frequency of the earth, or the hemispheres of my brain are in synchronicity, which is also hemisync. You can see that through the Monroe Institute. It's a big rabbit hole. Yesterday I said there are big rabbit holes. That's a big one. But this tree, since it's connected to the earth and is stationary, it is sending out a biofield frequency of 7.83 hertz, which is the Schumann frequency of the earth. And so 7.83 hertz happens to be a wonderful theta frequency for healing and wisdom at the same time. Now, while I'm speaking to you, I'm obviously giving my mind a task, right? So I'm carrying out a task of narration. And I have a desire with this narration to be clean, pure, effective, and empowering for you. That's my desire. So as long as my desire is there, I imagine the flow, and I am laying the pavement and driving it at the same time. Thus, I'm constantly flowing through God's manifold expression, and I'm not getting in the way with my own personal identity, which would love to get in the way, but it knows now not to. It just knows not to, because it sees the benefit. It sees it. So what's better than showing your ego the benefit of surrender? It continues to allow it. This is why no one will ever come on this path really and interfere with the process, because it's just not something that I desire. 1, 2, there's way too much momentum with this. That peak experience falls within the 25 to 28 hertz range, which is referred to as gamma or gamma radiation. It's what changes, all of the superheroes, which is funny. It's what changed Bruce Banner into the Hulk. The gamma frequencies are when you're in flow, when you're in peak experience. And that has to do with the firing and rewiring of your brain and neurogenesis. Just massive, incredible things happen to your body and your ability when you are both connected to the resting frequency of the earth through surrender and giving yourself a desirable task, which is desirable and also challenging at the same time. So I'm walking and talking is a challenging thing to do. And for it to be fluid and in response to your questions and inquiries is also a challenge. So I'm giving the challenge to the mind and body, stepping out of the way, falling into the resting frequency of the earth. I get the healing from the frequency of the earth, and I get the benefit of the gamma radiation from my mind being in sync with a higher state of being. Firing and wiring increases, neurogenesis occurs, the body awakens, and at the same time, I'm in some story that I'm decidedly going to that is my present. I'm witnessing the aliveness of God in the now with you. Therefore, whatever pain remembrances had been embedded in my body through the ego are unwinding on their own. And I'm being fed the benefit as it becomes the placenta and I become the star child. That's it. That's frequency. Madhuricast says, "Hi, hey William, how you doing today?" I'm doing great, thanks. And so you can do the same thing. Is there a way to measure your own frequency? This is a good question. Yes, you need an encephalograph. They do this at the Monroe Institute, and I believe that Joe Dispenza does it as well. But what you need is to measure the brain activity. And there's someone that I saw that had this set up that had used hemisync, which is the synchronicity between the hemispheres of your brain is called hemisync, and it's patented by the Monroe Institute, founded by Bob Monroe, who's no longer with us. He's deceased. But the bottom line is it shows how there are activity in the brain at first when it's in an alpha state or a beta state. There is a lack of sync, so it's kind of chaotic. And as you come into specific resting frequencies through the introduction of what's called binaural beats, it's the introduction of a frequency on both ears with a slight variation of hertz creates an audible anomaly, which is actually an auditory hallucination that sounds like waves. It sounds like whoa, 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 and it can slow down, whoa, 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 or it can speed up. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And depending on what that difference is in frequency, that hertz activates certain areas of the brain and brings it into synchronicity so that you can receive what Bob Monroe would probably refer to now as downloads. So if my brain, and as my brain is in sync, I know that I can do this when I'm walking and talking, and I can also do this when I'm writing. So I know that for sure. I can do it when I'm playing music and writing music. Anyone who's painting likely has their brain in sync in peak performance. Anyone who's writing with fluidity, anyone who's diving off of a mountain in flow, and they're exhilarated, challenged, but at the same time confident that they're living and fine, likely has this synchronicity going on. Just over continuous exposure, the body becomes addicted to it because we are beings of feeling. We want to do more and more, and we also reap the benefits of the unraveling of pain remembrances and the incrementation of our intellect and ability as humans. We start to come into our truth because we align more with the infinite intelligence than we align with the restricted identity that was imposed upon us at birth. Okay? That plane just circling overhead today? Sometimes it happens. Tori says, I used to have hypnagogic hallucinations and I heard that womp womp sound. Check out binaural beats, right? You can also look up Hemisync, Hemisync, big rabbit hole. It will sync your brain and likely make you feel great relief. Cassie says, where can I see more of your chats? Do you have a YouTube? I do. Cassie, the link is in my bio. Thank you for asking. And you'll see the posts from today there too, later on. Grandma Jeter says, that reminds me of my MRI. It's once again frequencies. Vani says, I'm on week 4 of Joe Dispenza meditation. I feel so synchronized right now. You are receiving downloads, Vani. And this is happening because of your infinite intelligence flowing through you as an instrument of God. Jeanette says, hello, soul family. Hello, Jeanette. Nice to see you. Joe Dispenza does do this, says Cassie. That's a confirmation. I believe Bruce Lipton does it as well, who studies a lot into epigenetics, the changing of environment through thought, which gives you your health. Tamara Lynn, I use a tuner on my phone and touch it. There you go. It's the same type of idea. We're working with frequencies. Vicky asks, do you talk about anger and fear? We'll do it right now. If I missed anyone else, please pose your question again. I'm not going to read back further than that. I am grateful, but I want to keep this flowing. So let's talk about anger and fear. It's a good question. So the way I define anything that is either anger or fear-based, I define it globally as a no situation. It's something that the body feels perhaps, maybe not, but it usually does, or the environment itself is presenting itself in a way that is undesirable. And so the combination of the two leads to a no situation, which sparks a reaction to it. Because the idea is we believe that we can change it by attacking the external circumstance or running from it, fight or flight. And this is an animal instinct that has been built into us that's known as the sympathetic nervous system active. And what it leads to is a release of dopamine and other, like adrenaline and other things that are trying to move us in a direction to preserve our lives. However, where we are now at this current state of being is we are evolving to a higher state through the imagination in which fear and anger no longer have a place as far as our mere survival. In fact, our mere survival more relies on the fact that we are surrendering whatever that no situation is, not by saying, I surrender to it, it overpowers me, it's stronger than me, it's better than me, I'll never get through this, so I just have to give in. No, that's not what I'm referring to when I say surrender. I'm saying you're literally not there. Like you step into your imagination, you're no longer in the life situation. It's called putting cotton in your ears or your head in the sand. While you're doing that at the same time, you're living out your wish-fulfilled state of being. Now, this is not easy for most people to do. In fact, one of the greatest challenges you will face is having to be in a situation that is triggering and trying to keep yourself from responding, not knowing what the hell to do, but you've been told by some guy on TikTok that you have to avoid that because it leads to more suffering. It becomes extremely frustrating. So what we need to do instead is surrender the entire story all together. And when those situations occur, you're going to give yourself the simplest of simple activities. Here it is. It's called the birthday cake. Okay? You're going to close your eyes if you can. If you can't, you're just going to see your eyes as where this place is in your mind that I'm about to tell you. You're going to imagine a birthday cake before you, and it's going to be well lit. And with your next breath through the nose, you're going to use that out breath to extinguish every candle. Do that now. Breathe normally. Do it one more time. Close your eyes if you can. If not, that's fine. Breathe in deep through your nose. Blow out those candles again. They're lit. Not because they're trying to torture you, but because it's an exercise that you have complete control over. Now the next time you breathe, I want you to say in your mind, I'm breathing in. Do that with the in-breath. And with the out-breath, I want you to say, I'm breathing out. Stick with that. And what will happen is, what's already happened, is a reset of the nervous system. Whatever fight or flight situation was happening, it gets turned off like a light switch would shut off the circuit. And it tells the entire body immediately that you are before a cake, blowing out the candles at peace with no harm. And that is a thing that you can hold on to as a simple image to jump into anytime the triggering event occurs that would trigger anger or fear. Understanding that fear and anger are an instinct for survival no longer applies. Understanding where we are in the game of life right now is understanding we become what we think about, and we do manage this reality, and we're taking control over our identity, which was mismanaged and handed to a state system, to our parents, to whomever, our employer, whoever it was that thought they had ownership over us. The ego itself thinks it does. All of that is now being managed by us as aliveness. Consciousness now resides as the superior officer of all things life situation. And so the way you can do that nice and compassionately towards yourself, if you don't want to be like put the word in place that you need. If you don't want to be like a strict officer or a warden, but you want control over your life, you can simply, as they come up, as a situation that's undesirable comes up, that triggers fear or whatever it is, you just say to yourself in your mind with your breath, after doing the cake or before, that doesn't move me. I'm still. That doesn't move me as much as I observe I'm alive. And me is no longer here. I'm stepping into the gates of the imagination, going to my perfect state of being. I'm not above it. I'm not below it. I'm not distant from it. It's not in the past and it's not in the future. No matter what the world says, I am that now. Because it's more important to me than suffering. Doesn't move me as much to suffer than to be in this wish-fulfilled state. The more you practice this, the more the ego knows, by default, it must be subservient to you. You being the aliveness that feeds it, it must be subservient to you as its master. And you become a master in truth, because this imagination, which knows no bounds and has no restrictions, is in fact a kingdom. It is the kingdom of heaven within you. It is your own domain. No one else owns it. You are taking ownership over your external life because you've already stepped in as king or queen of your domain within. So by doing that, you're stepping into your power completely. You are crowned the king, crowned the queen. You come into your domain. Every cell in your body is already listening to you as if you're the king, but it's so happy because to the cells of your body, they're screaming, the prodigal son has returned. The prodigal son has come home. The ships have returned. We must rejoice. We must celebrate. He is here. She is here. Yeah. Come into your kingdom like that? Whew. It's a powerful place to be. Next time someone says that triggering thing to you, you're just imagining yourself with your crown on, seeing them say something totally different than what they're saying to you that used to be triggering. And that is going to be the funniest moment of your life. It's going to be the funniest thing ever. You're going to start saying from your kingdom, every time this triggering word is said, I get $1 million. In fact, I'm going right into the imagination now to spend that $1 million on giving this person a vacation while using the rest to purchase my perfect dream home because they said that triggering thing, because they did that triggering thing. Please do it again. Please do it again. And again and again. Only if you want it. You may not want it. You may not want that game, but it's certainly a fun game to play if someone's saying something triggering and expecting you to go off, thinking that they're going to get underneath your skin, because that is in effect you giving your power away. So anger and fear is in effect giving one's power to an external circumstance that we believe we cannot control. Because we've tried to force it into something different, tried to control it into something different, tried to change it or adapt it in some way. And every time it seems to get worse, like it's coming back, circling around like a big fat boomerang, hitting us in the head. Don't know what to do. And that's why we get to this point. It's called surrender. I was at the point where I realized everything I was trying to do to control my life was sending me down a primrose path into blunders. Everything was going wrong. Everything was bad. Everything caused suffering. So eventually, once that happens enough, you'll come to a place of stillness and say, holy shit, I shouldn't do anything right now. I shouldn't do a damn thing right now. It doesn't matter how bad it is. Yeah, all these things really suck, but I'm not going to do a thing but witness that I'm alive right now. I'm going to go take a walk. Witness that I'm alive. And that's when the downloads start to come. They start to come in, deep and fresh. The depth of life starts to come in then. So, Brenda says they are giving their power to you. This is a beautiful way to reflect it too. So as we come full circle here, the way Brenda is describing this is beautifully poignant. If an individual is saying something in judgment of you, they are obviously in a no-based situation, rejecting what it is that is your presence. This is not a namaste. This is saying this person is an asshole or whatever it is. But it's not namaste. This person's an embodiment of God as aliveness. So this is a beautiful way to explain to you that if someone's trying to trigger you, they are in fact using their infinite source of creation to feed you their life source. Because they fed it to you, their attention. They become what they think about. You receive that information, you've gone into the mind of God as the imagination, and you've imagined that becoming $1 million, and there's nothing that can stop that from happening now. In fact, the more the person says the triggering word, the faster it happens. Because it's a boomerang. Yes, that has to do with correspondence. It has to do with the KYBALION. I'll prove it to you right now. I wrote it down. I shouldn't have ripped the page, but I did. To give you an example of fold space. Polarity. Everything is dual. Okay? Cause and effect is the sixth that also ties in. Newton's third law of motion. For every action, there is an opposite and equal reaction. If an individual is spewing hate and anger and cancellation and judgment, and you are not there, because you are in the mind of God in the imagination. There is no wall from which this hate can reverberate back. There is no construct from which it can operate in return from your energy. Therefore, it is a boomerang that swings around and knocks the person in the head. Welcome to the current state of being in political living. Welcome to the current state of being in revolution upon the planet. It is because people thought they could spew things, cancel people, do things, shut people down, and do it incessantly without any consequence. And it worked for a long time because people believed it was okay to do it. Until enough people didn't say simply, I don't believe that can be done to me. They just went elsewhere. They went into the mind of God. Thus, whatever restrictions were being thrown out there were surrendered to a higher state of being. And it became a clean, pure boomerang, which came back around and is causing the collapse of financial institutions right now and otherwise oppressive government institutions. They're all falling. Because enough people have decidedly removed themselves from the entire situation and no longer pay attention to it, no longer want it. They prefer something better. There it is, starting to reveal itself in a massive way externally. This goes for everything in life. This is why you should always love your neighbor as yourself. If you love your neighbor as yourself, it means you're loving your neighbor as you would in your imagination as wish fulfilled. That's how you have to love your neighbor. Otherwise, you are putting barriers in the way of your manifestation of truth as wish fulfilled. Okay? Pelios says the truth. Your neighbor is yourself. It's true. That also has to do with correspondence and polarity, everything in the KYBALION that we're talking about. Okay? Yes, every person that you're speaking to is in fact you as the universal source of creation, the aliveness acting through a body of God. Every human being is an embodiment of God. So just love yourself as you love them as you would love yourself. Yes. Carrie Sperry says, this is really helping me today. I'm so happy, Carrie. Thanks for the friendship necklace. It says Grandma Jima is lighting up the gift gallery. V Chase says, this is making my brain hurt. It's a lot to swallow in a given day. So you know what? Because there's so much digestion happening here, folks, let's have a little repose. I'm going to do some ASMR for us. Give us about 5-10 minutes walking through the woods without any talk, okay? So we can just digest this. Now keep in mind this will be on YouTube later. So if you need to revisit this, you can do it at your own time. Springer Sisters, thank you for following. Merle Contrell says, any help with staying balanced? This is the last thing I'll respond to, and then we're going to do some ASMR just walking. Love one another as I've loved you, John, chapter 13, verse 34. 100%, that is it. So staying balanced is the idea that somehow you believe you must be, right? There's an expectation for there to be balance. Of course, it feels good to be in a state of peace and equality, and it's what we seek. Perhaps one thing is getting more attention than another, and there's a desire to have that be balanced out. So it's the same principle with anything that is a desire, okay? So Merle, what you're going to do is start by resetting the nervous system. You take a deep breath through the nose. Imagine there being a cake before you and you're going to blow out the candles. After all those candles are out, you're going to start monitoring your breath. I'm breathing in. I'm breathing out. Instead of saying it aloud, you're just going to say it in your mind next time you breathe. And now what you're doing is you're bringing balance to the breath. So we're bringing balance to the body first, and then we receive balance outside. Cause and effect. Instead of having to try to cause something outside, even though it's the effect. We're doing the opposite now. So keep breathing, monitoring your breath, and we're going to do this for about 5-10 minutes as I walk through. And anytime an undesirable activity comes in, you can say, that doesn't move me as much as I observe I'm alive. That doesn't move me as much as I observe I'm alive. Start to take note of everything around you that is unfolding before you now. Anytime there's an interference, that train of thought is not yours. If it's something sinister, people often say, is this bad that I think these things? You're not actually thinking them. They're just being presented to you like a feed, like you're going to social media and something shows up that you didn't expect. It's not you. That is a stream of consciousness coming from a divine source that is flowing in for some reason because of life decisions, but it's not you making it. So just please say, that doesn't move me as much as I observe I'm alive. Now, go into your breath, monitor it. I want to just make sure I understand my daughter. Good, yes, exactly. That's a statement. You do. However, and now go to the place where you see yourself understanding your daughter. You're imagining understanding your daughter, however it's desirable for you. That's your choice. You do it in secret. This is why you pray in secret. Otherwise, the world outside is going to try to interfere because it's not used to you being wish fulfilled. It's used to you being in lack. It wants you back there because it's comfortable to have the rhythm and pattern. So it doesn't want to break the rhythm and pattern. It's not a judgment against you so much as it's trying to do this because it understands it as comfortable, thinking that we desire to be in lack. Laura, thank you for following. Danny Lee, thank you for sharing and following. Saba, thank you for following. So grateful to see all these people coming in. So I'm going to walk now and not talk for a few minutes so we can get some ASMR in. Adjust your volume as you see fit. This recording will be on YouTube tonight in case you've missed any of it. It's all here for you. So hang in there and do your breathing and go into your wish fulfilled state. Imagine being wish fulfilled in body, in the now. Everything else doesn't move you as much as you observe you are alive in your wish fulfillment. That is the kingdom of heaven within you. Step into your kingdom and become the guarantor of your wish fulfillment. King or queen, however you want to see yourself, go there now. All right. Let the presence of this plane come and go. As a form of practicing your presence, you listen to the beginning, middle, and end. Here comes a commercial plane. Probably wouldn't have heard it unless you were present. Everything has a beginning, middle, and end. In the physical world, including woes and pains, must have a timeline. That should be relieving. All right, let's keep walking. You heard a woodpecker. Use a tree? Sure, here you go. Here's a reset. It feels nice and warm with the sun. Feels like soft fur. "25, 30 seconds. That's all that's needed. Get enough of the negative ions, free electrons into the body. Okay. Let's keep on. Yeah, not hearing any woodpeckers right now. Okay, back to ASMR. Not hearing any birds. There's a woodpecker. Total silence. Every step has a beginning, middle, and end. The driving of the stick has a flow. This has to do with rhythm. Everything has rhythm. This is why we are drawn to music, to the principle of rhythm and cycle. That's why it's universally felt. That's why affection is so addicting. Lots of rhythm involved. It adds to the pleasure. It's familiar. Just a tiny anecdote. I brought a stone with me today. Thank you for the paper crane, Tyler. Let's see if we can get this in the sun. Should look somewhat emerald today. We'll see. Let's flip this camera so I can see it. This changes with the sunlight. At night, it will have a hue that is bluish red. However, during the day, it starts to take on more of an emerald green. Vicky says, so relaxing, I about fell to sleep. It is the rhythm, the familiarity of rhythm. Lake or stream on my left, Tyler asks. Not quite this time of year. Could be depending on the rains. But you have good ears, Tyler. You could be hearing the flow of streams in the distance from the left side. Very strong auditory abilities. That's a woodpecker. Sounds like a squeak toy. Remunere, thanks for sharing. Not the creek, the other side you're going to see. We'll get to the creek in a second. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. This is a nice healer. This one here. It's a good healer. Thank you for the heart buff. Overhoff, thanks for sharing. So as the sun goes down, this will have more of a bluish red hue. And during the day, we get more of an orange emerald because it is color changing, color shifting, consciousness. Thank you, Tyler, for that. Hand hearts. So, people, as we come to the end of our journey today, know that this is easily found on YouTube. Just a practical thing. And beyond that, we've discussed the KYBALION in its entirety in our own way, our own unique way. All this means is we're discussing coming into our power as aliveness, the new identity, which is the old identity. I am alive. I observe. I watch things happen. You can just as easily watch things happen and observe them here as alive as you can step into your imagination and observe things as alive. What's beautiful is the cells of your body know no difference. Whatever you look at, you are looking at through the lens of light. Thus it believes to be there. Whether you're looking through the light of your third eye, the imagination, or you're looking through your physical eyes, which are extensions of your brain, in contact with this external world. Whatever it is, the subconscious mind is equally impressed. In fact, I would argue, more impressed by the mind's eye, much more. But it is impressed when you look around, entertaining things. Father says, thank you for opening eyes. Indeed, Father. Thank you for your great questions today. You know, the Tesseract has to be an idea in the mind of the imagination right now, folks. The idea of your wish fulfillment being instantaneously has to be in the imagination right now. The beauty of this is it is there. Your imagination offers you that right now. The big gap that we have to cross, the big bridging, is our faith, which is believing that those things are real now. That is the exercise of faith that requires the most effort right now. So long as you're making it something that gives you your wish fulfillment, know that you're doing very good things for yourself and your body, your cells. It is in a form of self-love that is far superior to anything that could ever be giving you love outside of you. Okay? No matter how perfect your partner is or your life situation, the greatest form of love that you offer yourself is the freedom to know and exercise you're stepping through into wish fulfillment. That is the great power that you have as the king or queen of your reality. Sharni says, have a blessed weekend, everyone. Thank you very much, Sharni. Vicky says, drawn here today. I'm very happy. Man in Black says, I remind you of Seth MacFarlane. Do I? That Girl's Healing says, thank you. You're welcome. Tyler says, would you consider letting me on a live briefly one day? Oh, your video? Send me a message, Tyler. I'll send you a follow. Send me a message. We'll talk. Cassie, I think I got you before. I appreciate you for following me and for also following on YouTube. A-Town, great to see you, says, thank you, everyone. Kathy says, your voice gives me immense peace. Thank you, Kathy. Very kind. If there's anything I want to give the ego to do, my identity, it is be the voice, be the radio, be the personal trainer, be the aesthetics, but other than that, be at peace in surrendering to God's grace. Handles all of the words, all of the transmissions. Anything that is perceived as good is in fact you aligned with your own, offering yourself love. That's what's lovely about your comment. When I say thank you, I am thanking you for recognizing the truth of your being. Okay. Peace and love, man in black. Sharni says, it is 8:49 in the United Kingdom. I'm still very still now. I'm feeling very still now. That's perfect. It would be a lovely time to just turn down the lights and power down your screens and devices and start to come into being. Oh, it's 6 o'clock. 6:49, right? Did I say that right? Or it's 8. It's 8. Yeah. Come into being, whatever time it is. As the lights are dimming outside, allow that to be the natural signal to allow your circadian rhythms to fall into order. Melatonin will be produced. You might want to have some magnesium. You could give yourself a nice Epsom salt bath or English bath salts and start to bring yourself into being that way. Thank you, Tyler, for that night star. Sharni, thank you. Kanalingua. Yeah, everyone being so kind, Vaughn. I'm with you. This is a comment sent to all you beautiful souls coming in and feeling. I just know that you feel your power. It's nice to feel that you are in control of your manifestation. It's a really nice place to be. Nice to also know that you have strategies, which is to have no strategy, but you can start to notice when things might be undesirable instead of before just responding to them viscerally or unconsciously. By the way, that right there, that example that I just gave, being aware that the situation is happening is in fact presence. You're already in the womb of creation at that point. And you know what happens with that. Anytime you step into the womb of creation, everything outside of you works to feed you everything you desire. So that's what you want. You want everything to feed you what you desire, because you are the king or the queen of your domain. It is your kingdom, and it's a kingdom of heaven. Very important. So as you are nurturing yourself by stepping in your kingdom and residing, know that every thought is actually a wish in the mind of God. So put all of your effort towards surrendering to the things you love most. That's where your effort should be. Effort in surrendering to the things you love most. Which requires a lot of discipline at first, and eventually will unwind itself to where it becomes a joy to do so. All right. We'll leave a little message here with the woods today. Sharni says it's lovely to have a community too. Indeed it is. The community is a form of feedback system by human beings made in the image and likeness of an infinite intelligence that is God. To have people working together is just beacons of light, working in coherence with each other, moves the proverbial mountains. Tyler says the planes have buggered off. They have. I love this, Caden. I love that you said community is greater than culture. I agree. Being able to be in communion with one another, which is the savoring of each other's aliveness and truth by witnessing our aliveness, is to truly commune, to have communion with each other. Culture is a story, which usually leads to differences. All the same, it's a part of who we are, but it isn't greater than the aliveness that is us. The individual aliveness is the most powerful component of who we are. All right. Thank you for the heart, Sharni. The birds see me and they know. Hello, chickadee. Chickadee's the first on the scene always, because it's the wisest of the bunch. Its heart is the fastest. Aside from the hummingbird, the chickadee's heart is very fast. Therefore, it's perceiving everything around us before anyone else or anything else. perceiving me in very, very slow motion. Here comes the lumbering man, which is fine. All right, here we go. Good. Hang tight, folks. Hello, chickadee. Sounds like a little robot. That's the chickadee. Sounds like an R2-D2. All right, guys. Hello. Hello, birds. Okay. Let's flip the camera. The birds are being very beautifully talky to. Hello, chickadee. Here's my buddy. Hello, buddy. How are you today, guys? I got 2 chickadees here. Hello. How are you, my little chickadee? Are you good? Thank you, Tyler. Hey, I got my little house sparrow here. It's not shy at all. All right, guys. Okay. Yeah. Hello, loves. You guys having a good afternoon today? I hear the bluebird. Wow, I hear the bluebird. Oh my God. The bluebird is here. Actually, if that's maybe that's the American goldfinch. Not sure. All right. Maybe it's the American goldfinch. Zephyr says, "Wish you all well." Thank you, Zephyr. Hello, Chicky Dee Dee. Okay, guys, come on. Come on now. Hello, chickadee. Hello. Do 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 do. That's the junco. Thank you, Tyler. Do 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 do. Hello. Yes, little chickadee. Here you go. That's a woodpecker. Sounds like Beavis. Who's coming to the plate to get their food? Are the juncos coming by today? Choo 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 choo. Are the juncos coming by today? Choo 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 choo. Oh, I see a chickadee. I see a chickadee. Black-capped chickadee. Come on, guys. Here comes the tufted titmouse, the Disney bird, having a good meal. Hello, Disney bird. Those guys. Hello, doo-doo-doo. The tufted titmouse will eat from your hand. That's a good bird right there. Tufted titmouse. Yeah, they grab big pieces and go on their way. No shame. The chickadee, on the other hand, at least he gets bullied by the titmouse. Hello, chickadee. Come and get your goodies now, buddy. Chickadees are very respectful. They never step on anyone else's business. They just come by. They grab what they can. Their hearts beat the fastest, so their perception of time is very slow. Oh, here we have our Carolina wren. There's the Carolina wren in the tree there. Yep, that's the Carolina wren. He's down below. He wants to come to the platform and have some goodies. Now's the time, buddy. Come on. Come on, guys. Come on. All right, I'm going to back up a little bit. All right. Back up a little bit here. Now we're going to see the swarming of birds. Come on, guys. Yeah, Caden, we're all really good people. Beautiful embodiments of God. There we go. Here they come. Got a good 20 or 30 of them now, I'll show you. Oh, we got a Junko on the platform? That is a courageous little Junko. Those guys are so funny, man. They're the ones who survive in the cities. They're the ones going toot-toot. They're the ones shooting little lasers right now. They've become super assertive. Here in this area of town, they've become so assertive. Oh, we got a downy woodpecker. Thank you for saying your heart is so full. It's so nice to read that. That's from Cassie. Doo, 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 doo. That Junko is having a blast. Doo, 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 doo. Doo, 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 doo. Oh, there's the downy woodpecker. Just came and left. It was here and then it was gone. So perhaps you're wondering, they're shooting lasers at each other. They're having Star Wars on the ground there. Lots of laser shooting. They're in heaven right now. So these birds, you might be wondering how they stay warm. They have two types of plumage. Oh, there's a nuthatch just came into the platform. That was a nuthatch. They remind me of little Jack Russell Terriers. They're stout. They run down trees. They're so funny. Cute. Monica, thanks for following. So they have 2 layers of fur or of plumage. Shooting lasers everywhere now. The one on the outside is like an overcoat and prevents water from getting in. And then the one that's close to their skin, as it were, stays very warm. So these guys can survive under any conditions of the cold. They just puff up and it allows the air to escape, and then they can insulate. Oh, there's lots of laser battles in the ground here. Look at lots of lasers. Watching them playing Star Wars. Thank you, Tyler, for that. Super laser battles going on. There's just so much good food, they don't know what to do. They're just freaking out right now. They put a bunch of suet on the ground. So like having laser battles while also eating at the same time. Oh, we got a downy woodpecker on the feeder right over here. That is a downy. Huh. Oh, we got a nuthatch eating on the platform. That's a nuthatch. Just flew away. Okay. Got all the usual suspects here now. But that is a downy woodpecker. And I'm trying to see its head. I think that's a female. Unless it turns, I won't be able to tell for sure. You can tell that it's a male if it has a red spot on its back. Oh, we got laser battles going over here. These guys are having a laser battle. Do you see that laser battle? That was a big showdown. That's how a Junko shows its anger. It makes the laser sound, like, don't come near me. That's how it says it. Just says, doo, doo, doo. My territory. And now they're like all full right now, so they're just not even going to bother fighting. Caden says you can just feel the love. It's true. Thank you, Cassie, for sharing. That Junko up on the platform right now, that is, by the way, red jasper. So these guys are in a garden full of quartz stones. You just don't see it right now because there's so much snow. But it's a garden of quartz. Constantly releasing negative ions. And they love it. Back to the downy. Still there having a good meal. Laser battles are still happening. Uh-oh, here comes Darth Vader. Hurry up, get your food, Rebel Alliance. Darth Vader's incoming. He's coming to the platform. No. Here comes Luke Skywalker. They're going to have a battle. They're going to fight to the death. Use the Force, Luke. Use the Force. Plenty of food for you over here. Make it to the platform, Luke. Climb the tree. Make it to the platform, Luke. A day in the life of birding. A day in the life of birding, indeed. All right, everybody. That's going to do it. You'll see this on YouTube tonight. Happy to be here with you all. I love you all so much. I do. I want you to know that. Thanks for following. Thanks for liking. Thanks for all the love. 40,800 feet above sea level today. We haven't hit 40K in so long. All of your generous gifts, all the kindnesses, all the great questions, all the questions and answers, just all the love. It just sends out a huge vibration of healing for everyone that needs it, wants it. Love you all. You thought they were going to scrap? Maybe next time. They do. They run around in circles around trees. Might be able to get some of that next time. Thank you, Father, for your questions today. Cassie, thank you again for all your shares and kindness and following. All right. Ending transmission. Help me, Obi-Wan. You're my only hope.